time for some Free Game Monday with Smoke Dixon. It's a segment where we break down a recruiting topic in depth, give you the real story. Today, the focus is on 7-on-7 tournaments, most recently in the spotlight with the Cam Newton incident. He said this on his podcast, quote, "To every single high school player, to every single person I've influenced, to every single athlete, use my situation to understand that in one moment, in one decision, your life can change. Just like that. I let my emotions get the best of me, and it should not have been called for. Simple." All right, let's bring in our analyst to talk a little bit more about this. Smoke Dixon here with us now. I'll start with you. This got a lot of attention because, of course, it involved Cam Newton, but it's not an isolated incident at these events. How did we get to a place where these events become contentious at times?
I think it all started when you started evaluating the high school head coach and started moving to the trainers and the 7-on-7 coaches, where they aren't teaching, and not all of them, but most of them aren't teaching discipline, respect that you should have for your elders, and for a superstar like Cam Newton. So the fact that we are now moving in that direction, not giving an emphasis on high school coaches and going to 7-on-7 coaches having more value to the prospects, that's what's leading to this murky situation of total disrespecting our superheroes in our communities.
I think that's a really good point, Smoke. Obviously, I think the authority has to be maybe more respected, right? The head coach at high school, but also there's no real respect between 7-on-7 coaches. I think, I'm at those every weekend, it seems like, during the off season, and there's always an argument, maybe a couple scuffles here and there because there's a disagreement, and it turns contentious really, really quick. The other thing I think has affected things is the virality of these events. Everyone is on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram, on whatever we want to call it, and they want to go viral, and they want to make a play, or they want to do something that's going to get a lot of views, a lot of likes, a lot of cause a stir in a sense. And I think that's also affected the way some of these players, some of these coaches react, and how they're able to act in these platforms, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, Blair, I want to follow up on something that you just said, not just that it's contentious, but it turns contentious very quickly. When I think of these 7-on-7 tournaments, it's fun, right? It's when you get together, you play kind of what's supposed to be stress-free football away from your high school team. So why has this become such a high-stress and high-strung environment as of late?
Yeah, it turned into a competitive setting where you were able to match up against another player from maybe another region. And now it turns into maybe you feeling embarrassed or disrespected because you lost a rep, or because someone caught a ball on you and they danced, or the other team celebrated. It just turns into that, where it becomes personal when it shouldn't be. It should be you versus you, or you versus the guy across you, and playing and just trying to make a play. And I think that's where the core of it is. It's that it's a competitive environment. I think the competitive juices are usually flowing, and when there's cameras around, when there's people hooting and hollering, and there's a lot of noise, I think it just kind of raises the anxiety for some of these players, and I think that's why it turns into some of that bad look that we've seen in recent weeks.
Yeah, when you look at it, it's supposed to be a competitive environment, and it's supposed to have some emotions. But you're not supposed to become emotional. And getting embarrassed and a guy catching the ball on you or scoring on you, it doesn't have to lead to you celebrating and taunting that player. Go ahead and celebrate with your teammates. But it's an old added fact of it's okay to have a teachable moment of learning how to get beat and how to recover. When you get beat, it's not over. But these kids are looking at it saying, hey, I'm going to go viral because I just got one head topped and every one of them running around saying I just got scored on. But at the end of the day, just look at it and say it's a teachable moment. If I got scored on, it's okay. I'm going to learn how to not get scored on the next time. And if a guy celebrates on me, that's a part of it. You're going to have millions of people watching and judging you and moving forward.
Blair talked about all the cameras out and everybody wanting to watch. Smoke, from your experience watching these 7-on-7 tournaments evolve, how much more importance is placed on these events compared to maybe what you do in high school or some of the camps that you go to?
Well, it's a part of the process. And with 7-on-7 and what's going on, it's allowing a lot of these players to get better. Because as a skilled player, the way that you get better is having more reps. And you're having high school players come in college to having a real good impact on the collegiate game, collegiate players having the ability to have an impact professionally. So it's a great process, and it's a great tool that you can use. But it's not the end all and be all. And we all have to understand that winning a 7-on-7 tournament It's not going to get you a scholarship, and it's not going to make you millions. It's going to give you an opportunity to get a scholarship and an ability to get evaluated at a higher level, but it's not the end-all and be-all.
Smoke, I tell recruits all the time that no one remembers who won so-and-so 7-on-7 tournament. Like, I've been to probably 8 already this year, and I don't even remember who won those, because we're there to see who is competing, and we want to see certain traits, right? It's just one line on the resume for some of these players, some of these prospects. I've mentioned this on the show before. My favorite part of 7-on-7 is evaluating the quarterbacks and being able to stand behind them, scanning the field while they're trying to make a decision and knowing, okay, this is where he could have gone with the football, or hey, this is the adjustment he just made, or oh, he just made a throw into double coverage, he missed the guy on the right side, maybe on the next play he'll try to exploit that. Those are the learning things that I pick up on at 7-on-7 tournaments, and there are things that you don't see on film, how a player reacts to failure, how he's being able to lead some of his other team members, how he's responding to coaching. Those are all things that we don't get to see in these 7-8 minute highlight films where it's only good plays. I think 7-on-7 is super valuable in that sense, and it's something that I think should continue to be stressed, that it's only about competition and getting some work in the off season.
Blair, I got a quick story for you. 2 years ago, we have one of the better players in the area in Maryland on a visit. And his 7-on-7 coach tells his head coach that the kid needs to leave the visit on a Saturday so he can play in a 7-on-7 tournament. Gladfully, the parents was on board with the process of getting recruited and getting to your home instead of worrying about bringing home a trophy or getting head top or having the best look out there on the 7-on-7 tournament, and understanding the true value of going through the process and understanding that 7-on-7 is not the only process. It's just a day for a youth coach or one of the guys in the community to be number one and win that trophy.
Yeah, it's about showing that competitiveness. I've always looked at it as a chance for you to stack up and see how you rate against other players in the region. Sure, you're going to play against some guys that maybe you already know, that you recognize, that are from your own neighborhood or from your own league. But once you get into some of these national tournaments and you see another player that is maybe ranked ahead of you or has more stars than you, I think it raises the level of competition. And that's something that I really like to see. I like to be able to gauge and measure the player from Louisiana with the player that we love in California, or the quarterback from Texas, to see how he's able to go through his progressions based on what we just saw from the quarterback from Florida. You know, it's a measuring stick. It's a tool for you to go out there and compete. But I keep stressing this. It shouldn't be the most important thing. And unfortunately, sometimes the youth coaches, some of the coaches that are associated with this, some parents, they feel like this is the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it back to that, because I think it was important to lay out what these events are like and the competitive environment and just the vibe of being at one of these events. But ultimately, how we started this segment is talking about some of these highly contentious moments that have been caught on camera and spread around social media, and just not even the ones that have been caught on camera. I know, Blair, that you've seen them up close and personal and going to these events. And I mean, it sounds cheesy, but team sports are supposed to teach kids to be part of a team and to be disciplined. But Smoke, if the adults are not setting a good example, how does that trickle down to what we see from the players?
Well, the adults probably are the worst ones, because they're living vicariously through their kids. And we're not having that young person understanding what accountability is and what discipline is and what it is to be a true team player, and putting the team in front of yourself instead of putting yourself in front of the team. It's not the fact that you catch a ball and celebrate. It's the fact that you just caught the ball to help your team advance or score, get a first down or a takeaway from it. And I think that's what we're missing from the whole team aspect. Winning is not you having personal success. It's your team having that win at the end of the day.
The OT7 Golden Ticket event wasn't the only one that I made it out to in Southern California this past weekend. There was also the Shock Doctor. I drove down from Santa Clarita down to Orange County to meet up with our good friends Greg Biggins and Brandon Huffman, who were in town to cover it. But there was a 20-minute delay in one game, because there were parents that had gone on from the sideline to dispute a call, and they were trying to figure out the score. long story short, this tournament was supposed to end at 3, and the clock is hitting 3:25, 3:30, and the championship game hasn't even started. And that's because of those delays. It's the arguments. It's the bashing of the officials who, by the way, are just there trying to help on a weekend, coaching or officiating a 7-on-7 tournament. So, yeah, I think I understand, obviously, that the parents invest a lot of money to travel to some of these events and to obviously outfit their players and all that comes with it, but it shouldn't come to what it comes to at times.
Blair, we all are direct reflections of our leadership. And as we look at it right now, the leadership that these young people are getting aren't truly from what we would call coaches. They're just young people within those communities or young parents that haven't figured out that it's okay not to be your child's friend, but it's okay for you to discipline. Discipline is part of that learning process and that maturation of becoming a young man.
Okay, so I want to know, how do we fix this issue? How do we get back to the development and the football, which is what this was intended to be? Smoke, give us your solution first.
Well, first and foremost, we all have to understand that you can't live vicariously through your own child. Like, they're going to have their opportunities in life. You just have to direct them and give them some added needed tough love along the way. 2, like the adults, we have to figure out that the examples that we're leading out there for these young people, that's what they're picking up on. And if we don't put ourselves in a better situation, this whole entire thing is going to keep continuing going downhill. And third and last, and the utmost understanding, we have to give back the value and the respect to the high school coaches through recruiting, through the 7-on-7 coaches, to the trainers. I remember back in the day, you couldn't touch a high school player unless you went through the high school coach. Now you totally avoid the high school coach and go directly to the parents, and the parents aren't even listening to the high school coaches anymore because they feel like the high school coach can't get them the bag, can't get them the swag, or can't get them in front of a proper college coach to get evaluated.
Yeah, the structure, I think, is all jumbled up, right? It's not what it used to be. There's so many different avenues now for these prospects to be seen, and that obviously leads into prospects maybe playing for a team that, there's no real association. There was a player, I'm not going to name him, but he's played for 4 different 7-on-7 teams this offseason. We joke that he's collecting these jerseys every weekend just to kind of, sprinkle them in. But I think one way to fix it is to start ejecting people from the venue and, maybe throwing flags for unsportsmanlike conduct or getting people off the sideline or not restarting an event or a game until those people are gone. Because once they start doing that, once they start enforcing the rules, it hopefully dissuades others from being unruly or from disrupting the service and disrupting the event. So I think officials need to be a little bit better on condoning all that stuff and making sure that everyone's gone when they need to be gone.
Yeah, it's just empowering the adults, and adults not being afraid of losing a player. Because like you just said, a player that just played on 4 different teams. I'm pretty sure one of the coaches said, hey, listen, we're not putting up with it anymore. But there's always a coach that says, hey, you know what? It's okay for me to help that kid out. I can fix him. But at the end of the day, we just have to put in the discipline and accountability and make sure that our players are out there understanding that it's not about the taunting and the celebration. It's about the life lessons. Everyone's not going to the NFL, but everybody's supposed to be a responsible adult when they get to that particular age.